it's Zenyatta. Welcome to my first face-to-camera video on this channel. So today's video is going to be a review slash a discussion of 2.43 Seiin High School Boys Volleyball Team. I'm super excited. This has kind of been a show that I've been super excited for. It's been one of my more anticipated shows of 2021. And it just dropped the other day. So we're going to discuss the first episode and yeah. So basically, something that I want to address that I keep seeing everywhere that this is just like seems to be a big complaint about this show is like, oh, it's just a copy of Haikyuu. It's just a copy of Haikyuu. And it really isn't. So I'm going to talk more about that later, but my initial thoughts of this show was that I was very pleasantly surprised, because that was honestly one of my biggest worries, was that it was just going to be a copy of Haikyuu. I've never read the book, and I've never read the manga. So, yeah. My initial thought was that this show is going to be more character motivated, it seems. And that pleasantly surprised me, because there isn't a lot of sports anime out there that's character driven. So that's cool. Alright, so future me here, I forgot to mention something, was that this show kind of reminds me of Stars Align more than Haikyuu, actually, with it being so character motivated. I think the reason why, and I briefly mentioned this, is that 243 is based off of a novel that was turned into a manga and then was adapted into the show. Now, Stars Align was an original show written specifically for TV, and I think that's why is because of the forms of media that they were originally written for. I think is a big part of the reason why they're so character motivated versus a normal sports manga would be focusing specifically on the sport itself normally. And then obviously your characters have personalities and stuff, and then you might get a little bit of the backstory, but yeah, that's just something that I've kind of noticed and I wanted to mention. The next thing that I also found kind of cool, and I don't know if this stems from the animators might not know as much about volleyball as the Haikyuu the animators do. But the one thing that always annoyed me about Haikyuu was that the form that the characters use for like spiking and stuff is so perfect. And it's like, you guys are like, there's nothing really that you can grow off of. Like, what's his name? Hinata automatically, like, middle school, never had a coach. Perfect spiking form right off the bat. And it doesn't seem to me like these characters have, like, great form yet. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing grow. And like I said, I don't know if this is because of the animators maybe just not knowing as much about volleyball. But that was kind of interesting, because and there's just one image that just spikes in my head from seeing that. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I need to look up where this takes place in Japan, because I love the snow. Because I honestly haven't seen a lot of sports anime that have snow everywhere. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I love the snow. I love the way it looks. I'm just like, it's very... the animation, like, when you look at it, it's like, oh, that's not very detailed animation. But it's still very good animation. And I'll give them that. But yeah. The only thing was that I feel like I was kind of lost, and I think part of it has to do with it just being me having to read subtitles versus, like, if I spoke Japanese, probably would make a lot more sense. So that's a thing. But I don't know if the translation's just not all that up, or if my ability to read subtitles and watch an episode was not the greatest when I watched this, and I think that's probably what it was. Because I haven't watched anything subbed in about a week. So that probably did not help me a lot when I was making this, when I was watching this. But yeah. So I think the one thing that everybody keeps getting caught up with this show, though, is that it's just a copy of Haikyuu, is what I keep hearing. I see it all over the place. I was on a discussion group in Facebook earlier, and I didn't really go into a lot of depth because I didn't want this to affect my own thoughts making this video. But I just flipped through the comments and I kept saying I just kept seeing it's a copy of Haikyuu. It's a copy of Haikyuu. And I'm like, is it though? And I think the big thing that people are getting caught up on the fact is that one of the main characters, his name is Chitaka. He's labeled as this genius setter. And that's kind of like how everybody always kind of describes Kagiyama. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see why that is causing a problem. But ultimately, every sports anime there is tends to have a theme when it comes to each sport. There isn't a lot of volleyball anime out there, or just volleyball shows in general that I'm aware of. But this is like, for example, baseball. This is like every baseball show, movie, like so many of them, especially with anime, it always seems to focus on the pitcher and then the catcher. So you have this dynamic between your catcher and your pitcher. So, aka the battery. So that is kind of like tends to be the main focus of a baseball anime or just a TV show. And then the other thing, like, for example, what was the other show I was thinking of? Soccer. Soccer always tends to focus on a striker. And that is so many shows, so many, that is like anime, non-anime. It's like striker is the flashy position kind of deal. Because, like, ultimately, like, yeah, your midfielders score goals, but like your strikers, that's their whole entire job. They're supposed to be the ones to score goals, right? So I think that's part of the reason why that's a thing. And maybe as time goes on, maybe the trend for volleyball will be it focuses on it focuses on a setter and a wing spiker, or just a spiker in general. And yeah, so I'm just wondering if that might just become the trend for volleyball shows. And then, but like I said, this show is so character motivated that I think that as time goes on, it really will start to set itself apart from Haikyuu. And yeah. The other thing that I think that it's like the description of the show. It's like after their fight in their fight in middle school. And yeah. So I'm wondering if that might also be setting it off as a Haikyuu copycat. Alright, so now I'm going to be getting into the spoilers. I'm just gonna like talk about like the big thing that I found very interesting, and I'm like, oh, this is really like, this is different, was the fact that when you got to the end of the episode, we've got the main character Uni and Chaka. Oh my god, I am so sure that is so wrong. I think I'm pronouncing it like Black Panther. That's probably where I'm getting this. But they're coming back from volleyball practice or wherever they're coming from, and Uni's cousin steps out and he's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be spending time with this guy, this is why, and he caused his teammate to try and kill himself because he pushed his teammate over the edge. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, that just like, bam, right in my face. I'm like, okay, this show is going to be something different, in my opinion. Now, obviously, this is something that, I mean, it might be completely different as the show goes on, we'll see. But like I said, it being based off of a book, that is part of the reason why I'm thinking that it's going to be more character motivated. And I keep harping on this whole character motivated thing, but yeah, my hopes slash predictions for the show. So basically, I'm really hoping that that kind of drills into Chaka's head, is like, oh yeah, I caused somebody to try and take their own life. Like that, like, especially as, what are they, they're ninth graders in this I think they're ninth graders in this episode. And like, for example, the one character from the big wind up, his whole thing was that, like, the main pitcher was like, his whole thing was nobody liked him because he pitched slow, da 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 da, and like that ultimately shakes that character up like the whole way through the show. And I think that that is something that might, like, just ultimately, like, if you almost cause somebody to take their own life, like, I think that that's something that you shouldn't just, it shouldn't just bounce off of you. And I'm really hoping that that messes with his head a little bit as the show goes on. And if it doesn't, it should. And it should definitely make you think more. And I'm hoping that over time, he starts to realize that. And same thing, and I'm hoping that Uni is there to help him through it, or just any character in that general, or just any teammate is willing to help, because that can't be something, unless you're just a complete asshole, there is no reason that should just fly over your head. Alright, so plans for future videos. So hopefully I will have this video uploaded every Saturday. That's going to be my goal. And of course I'm uploading this today, Sunday, just because I didn't really think about doing this till now. So I'm hoping to have another one of these videos up on Saturday. And what I'm also planning on doing with this channel is going to focus specifically on sports anime. I don't watch any other kinds of anime. I keep trying different kinds, and I keep going, and I keep trying, and I'm just not really into what's out there in anime, apparently. I've always been a sports person. I mean, I've literally played every sport I could possibly get my hands on growing up, and that's just kind of something that I really appreciate and something that I miss. I was supposed to play college tennis, and COVID kind of screwed that up, so I don't know if I will be playing tennis in college. So it's just kind of, I think that this is just something that's like, oh, I miss playing sports so much. So I think that that's part of the reason why this has resonated so much with me, with watching sports anime. So yeah, so like I said, I'm moving all this stuff from another channel that I have. It's called Ravenclaw Witch, Daughter of Athena. There's 2 anime videos on there. One is an edit of Ace of Diamond, and then the other one's a very bad reaction video to Kuroko's basketball, and that was a pain in my butt to film. I literally re-uploaded that video, I think 6 times. So, yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please join me again next week for a review on the second episode.